Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Asian Dating Podcast. This week we have Helen Asuncion. Helen comes from a background in private education, and after spending over a decade matching students and families with local resources and businesses, she turned her hobby of matchmaking couples into a full-time profession. After her stint at 3 Day Rule Matchmaking, she decided to pursue a matchmaking career with an emphasis on helping the Asian community. You can find Helen at myzenmatch.com. So, welcome to the show, Helen. I'm so excited that you're here. And yeah, how are you doing today?
Good. How are you doing, May?
I'm doing really well. I'm doing really well. I know Helen actually for a while now, and her focus on Asian matchmaking and want to help the Asian community totally got us connected in a great way. And we've bonded really well. And so we just have been helping each other out, matching our clients and matching people in our database. So it's just been a great relationship, working relationship with Helen. And today I invited her to come on the show and to kind of speak about what she's doing and kind of what she's seeing out there in the Asian dating community. So, Helen, let's talk.
Okay. Do you have any
So,
questions for me? Go
yeah,
ahead.
so tell me a little bit about the Asian men and women that you're helping out there right now. And what are some of the things that you've come across and how we can help our listeners out there?
I think the first thing with Asians tends to be that we are overachievers. We're used to being uncomfortable and staying in a situation that makes us uncomfortable. And we're also used to being adaptable. You see a gap in any social situation, and you kind of like a chameleon, you become the person needed to fill that void.
Yeah.
When it comes to dating, I think that can land you in a few problems, I'm
What do you
sure.
mean? Can you expand on that a little bit?
Like a date, maybe during a first or second date, not quite vibing with the person, but continuing to meet that person just because you are accustomed to seeing how things play out and not necessarily removing yourself from a situation right away. I think in a relationship as well, it may mean staying longer than you should be because you're used to having to fulfill a specific role that might not be in your best interest.
Are you saying that sometimes as daters in the Asian community, we are just going on multiple dates with somebody and not necessarily thinking it would take us in the long term with them, but we just keep seeing them? I mean, how many dates do you recommend that they go out for before they realize, you know what, this isn't working out for me?
I think I see that more in the Asian community than the other way around, at least for most of us in our 20s and early 30s, is instead of maybe after two bad dates or three saying, hey, this really isn't working out for me, we'll find a way to make it work.
Oh,
Yeah.
really? Interesting. Okay, so you're actually
Yeah.
giving a guy a chance. So I always tell my clients and people in my database that hopefully they can give someone three chances, three dates
Mhm.
before they figure out, you know what, this isn't working. So do you think three dates is a good number for them to figure out if they should at least continue seeing them?
I do think by three dates is a good number. By then, you should have a good sense, of whether you're compatible or not.
Yeah, yeah. So what about other things like that? What are other things that you're noticing with the Asian community when it comes to dating based on your decade of matching people?
Oh, I think for one thing, because like I mentioned, we are overachievers. When it comes to Asians, I'm constantly asking, what's your occupation and what are your work hours?
Oh, really? Does work hours affect how, what does the work hours do? Like people just don't want to date somebody who works so much, or they want to judge them on what kind of job they have before they go out with them?
I like to see if somebody's made the time in their schedule to date. So if they're working just all the time, I would recommend, hey, can you practice setting aside some time for dating because otherwise you won't have time for a relationship. But also, the weekend working seems to be a big deal breaker.
Oh,
If one partner has a, Monday through Friday 9 to 5, and the other one is constantly working on Saturdays and Sundays, it's usually the weekday 9 to 5 part of the person in the relationship who is just not going to be happy about
I never actually thought about that. I never asked
it.
my clients if, does it bother you if someone works on the weekends? But that's a very good point, because they want to bond over the weekend, right? They want to do
Yes.
things over the weekend or go to parties together. And it would be a bummer if they don't have that time to
Mhm.
connect. So would you set up somebody based on their schedule then? Like if someone works on weekends, you're going to also set them up with someone who works on weekends?
I would try to. One of my favorite combinations is, if somebody works on weddings or hair, then somebody in real estate, just because those
Oh,
are two industries that are very heavy on the weekends.
okay, okay. Good point. Good point. Let's see, what else? What else have you been finding out there now that you're matching Asian men and women?
So I have been exploring the dating apps, and I'm actually using Bumble myself for Bumble Biz and Bumble BFF.
Okay,
Um,
okay.
it's a little scary.
What are you finding out there?
Uh, for one thing, I think when I peek over at the dating side of things, profile photos. I think everyone should just, suck it up and shell out for those professional photos.
I totally agree.
So,
I think that if you're going to spend the money on Bumble or Hinge or Match.com, I mean, dating apps, I mean, that can cost you a pretty penny too to stay on an app for, 6 months or a year or however many months. And you want to put your best foot forward. I feel like even if you don't get professional photos with a professional photographer, I feel like you can just get dressed up and have your friends or
yeah.
friend take some photos of you around the yard, pose this way, sit casually this way with a drink, or something where you're looking in the camera, looking away, like just take a bunch of
Mhm.
shots and then you just need like 3 or 4 of them for your profile photo, for your profile, meaning maybe it's something if you like sports or if you go on a hikes, like just mentally prepare like, okay, if I'm going to do a dating profile, I should take some good photos that are recent and that you can also say that those are recent photos on your profile so people know that's what you really look like. Like, are you just seeing a bunch of bad photos out there? Like what's a bad photo in your mind?
There are a couple that keep coming up over and over. One thing that Asian men I see a lot is they'll come up very, very close to the camera and just fill the whole frame with their face,
Right.
just barely any border, but then they'll have these very sad eyes.
Yeah, I
So
agree.
it's just face and sad eyes, and uh, a lot of pictures, a lot of photos, men and women. I'm constantly wondering, I wonder what impression they thought they were giving when they chose this photo.
Right, right. Yeah, I think it's a good exercise for a woman to have a male friend pick out some of their dating photos for them. Like, hey, what would you
Mm.
like to see if you were single and, or find a single friend of the opposite sex and just help them pick out your profile photos. But I agree. The thing I have kind of a gripe with the Asian men is they like to cut their hair really short and it's like a buzz cut or something and it's not attractive. It's like it's okay to have some hair on your head and just to, get it styled or get like a nice haircut so you look nice for your dating photos and, for dating, like whatever you need to do, it's like okay to spend some money on yourself to get things done. But I agree. Some of those photos that they take are like so close up and they're not smiling. I feel like you know, all phones have a timer now. Like you can just take some timer photos, and just take a bunch of them when no one's watching. You're just by yourself, and then just pick a few. So yeah, I feel like those are really important. And yeah, no, I agree. I agree. So you're finding photos that they could look a little bit tastefully, right? Like they could look better. Okay, what else are you finding
Mhm.
out there?
I mean, I think just communication wise, it's hard. You know, I don't think a lot of adults, successful adults, have the time to be sending these messages and responding, especially, if it's like two, three different people and you just never know when they're going to answer. It'll expire after a certain time. So I found that just logistically, dating online is it's a challenge.
Yeah.
And it kind of makes me wonder why people do it.
So what are some tips you advise them to
Yeah.
do? Like what is a good app for them? What is a good app to use for if you have like a 20, 30 something year old Asian man or woman? What app do you think they should use?
Oh gosh. I mean, first of all, I if you were 20 in your 20s, I would say you shouldn't need an app. You should be being propositioned for dates everywhere you go. If otherwise you're doing something wrong, you must wash your face or something.
So you're saying
um,
if you're in your 20s that you should actually be out and about and you should just go out
yes.
and meet people organically that way. Like, okay, what are some places that they can go and meet quality singles in your mind?
The gym is a big one.
Okay.
I'm a big fan of workplace, church if you attend, or volunteer activities. I like to take the approach of trying somebody out for free. And by that, I mean that if you work together or you volunteer together or they're in your social circle, you have the opportunity to watch them and see how they interact with others,
Mhm.
to see how they react, to stressors or to triggers or in a crisis.
Right.
And really, I mean, you can be taking someone on a test drive for a year and they wouldn't even know it because you haven't committed.
So you're saying to be friends with these people or just to observe them from afar? And then how do you make the move? Like, how do you suggest a 20 something year old or 30 something year old get a date with that person?
A good old confession and asking them out for a meal or an activity. Or, if the group of friends is already going bowling, you could say, hey, can I pick you up? Hi, Friday night, I know we're all going. Can I pick you up?
Yeah.
And of course, the girl is going to know that your relationship has shifted.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So just by suggesting, can I pick you up Friday night to go bowling with a bunch of friends, like they should know that it's a romantic interest? Like, do you find that girls get the cue that way?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
The offer is on the table.
Okay,
The
good.
friend zone has moved to, and actually, that's one of my biggest things. I think that Asians do more than other races is we tend to friend zone good potential partners.
Mhm.
I don't know if it's the frugality in us or that we're just careful and we don't want to mess up a good thing. But, if somebody's having regrets in their 30s and 40s, by now you've probably said no to somebody really good for you at least three times.
I agree. I agree. So are you suggesting that I would if I had a sister, younger sister who's in her 20s and 30s, I would say that if every guy who asks you out and you just say yes for the year, what if that was like a challenge? Like, just say yes to everybody who asks you out, whether you think they would be great for you or not. And I mean, just to get dating experience, right? Just to go out and practice dating and to see what you really like in a guy, I think it's worth just saying yes. I mean, the people who are asking you out are the ones who are interested in you. And I just feel like if people are asking you out and you're not finding interest in them, what are some things you got to change in yourself to attract the kind of guy that you want? So,
Mhm.
yeah, I agree. Like everyone who asks you out, you should probably say yes and give them a chance. Like you never know. You just never know. Like I did not think I would be married to my husband. Um, we've been together 15 years now. He's 10 years younger than me. I did not think I was
Ooh.
going to marry someone 10 years younger than me and have a great relationship with him. I did not even think he would be a romantic interest, but we just went out as friends and then things just developed from there. So you just really never know. I mean, I hear these women that are like, I don't want to date him. He's too far. He lives in Woodland Hills and I'm in LA. It's like, okay, but at least you're not out of state. Like, think about how fortunate you are. You could drive to each other's homes and hang out and get to know each other. And just, I feel like people just put too many barriers when it comes to dating. So, but anyway, what else? What else do you have, Helen?
Oh, well, I mean, yes, a city matters, I do think. So the city you're living in might not be the best for you in terms of what you're looking for. So if you're and by that I mean actually along with what you're saying, like expand your search. Don't just look in your little radius and say, "Oh, I want it to be easy." You know, I want it to be no further than 15 minutes. Because especially for women, then all you're going to get is, the men who can afford to live in your 15-minute radius, which might not necessarily be the kind of man you want to end up marrying.
I agree. Like, I see women put on their profiles, like, oh, I love traveling, I love exploring, but then they only want to date a guy within 20-mile radius. It's like, do you really like traveling? Do you really like exploring if you only want to date in this circle? Like, I think maybe that's a time for the listeners out there to reflect. Like, if you say you're adventurous, then why don't you open up your
Mhm.
parameters and your distance in dating and just things like that. I feel like sometimes people's profiles, what they say on their profiles, is not what they do with their actions, right? When it comes to dating.
Mhm.
So they're going around saying, I'm so adventurous and I'm this, I'm that. It's like, okay, well, then be adventurous, show that you're adventurous, do something different. Just things like that. Yeah, distance is a really, I know it's a tough thing, distance in Los
Mhm.
Angeles, right? The traffic sucks. It's hard to get around, but if you plan for things, it can be easier. If you're a planner and you get more things done and you date a wider range, a wider diameter radius, and who knows who you'll find out there. And for example, I guess, I mean, you're in LA. If you're open to dating a guy in Orange County and the guy is open to dating someone in LA, like eventually, if you guys fall in love, you'll figure out where you're going to live and where you're going to move
Mhm.
to. And maybe you just move to Long Beach, or maybe you just have a great job now. I mean, especially with COVID and the pandemic, like people can really work anywhere now. Like, this is the time to take advantage of the distance and be like, you know what? Maybe I do want to meet someone in New York and connect and see what happens. And maybe they have family in the Orange County area or LA, or maybe their job was going to open up in LA anyway. Like, you just really never know.
Mhm.
Yeah, if I was single now, I would just be a great dater. Like, knowing what I know now, being in this industry for like 13 years now, I would be such a great dater. I would open my parameters. I would date people who are my same height and not be so picky with height. I mean, that is my constant complaint with women is I only want to date a guy who's 6 feet or 5'10", and he has to make 100,000 or more, and he has to like sports, and he has to like this and like that.
Mhm.
It's like all these parameters people are putting in dating is just, well, I guess that's why we're in business, right? They need our help because they're so
Well,
picky. But yeah.
I've when it's the girl being picky, I've noticed it's usually harder because our pickiness is based on fantasy. Uh, with men, I've noticed it's generally just comes down to age. If they want children,
Mhm.
they might set an age limit. But otherwise, they're just bring me somebody nice.
Right. Right. So
Yeah.
tell me a little bit about what you're finding out about women out there who are in this fantasy land and they're so picky. Like, what are some things that you're seeing out there that you wish if you could wave a magic wand, they would just cooperate with you more?
Oh gosh. I think when it comes to women over 35, and the same was true for me, uh, everybody in their lives wishes they could wave a magic wand because we really come into our own. We know what we want, we know what we don't want in our lives anymore and what we don't want to put up with, and we get really stubborn and really demanding. And if by then you do have a husband or family, or you've moved into a position in your career where you have some authority, you get to call all the shots. And if you're single at that age and you've got this power at work, your parents probably by now have given up on arguing with you. So you get to call the shots, in your family. It can get really hard. I think women, we can get in our own way a lot of
So what
times.
do you suggest for those single women out there? What should they do differently?
I think giving being vulnerable one last shot and doing it the smart way.
What
So
do you
part of the reason we get all hard and demanding is because we feel like we've put up with enough in the past. And so I'm not going to put up with this anymore because, my first ex did this, my second ex did that, and I'm not having any of it.
mean?
But the truth is, usually those painful steps are going to be a part of any relationship, even a healthy, good one. So it's like, hey, let's look, intelligently and strategically. Let's set you up on dates with guys that are only great guys. So
Mhm.
they're not going to be jerks. It might not work out, but they're great. And can you relax a little bit and let yourself be vulnerable to possibly being disappointed or possibly being let down, just one more time instead of adopting this shiny wall
I
and saying you can't come over it unless you can jump 10 feet straight up into the air.
I know, just as I'm setting up some of the women in my database who really want a relationship and claim they really want to be in a relationship. And I set them up with this great guy, meets her criteria for height, her job, education, all this stuff. And I set them up and I usually ask the guy to confirm the date with the woman a day or two before. He has not confirmed with her. It is now 11 a.m. and she's like, okay, he hasn't confirmed the date with me tonight. And if he doesn't confirm with me in the next hour, I'm just going to make plans for tonight. It's like,
Hmm.
okay, but why not just text him and say, hey, are we still on for tonight? And not take a reason to get upset and to try to cancel the date. It's like, wait, you wanted to be in a relationship, you wanted to meet a great guy. And just because he didn't confirm with you in the next hour, you're going to call the date off. It's like, okay,
Hmm.
that's a bummer, but that's the great thing about hiring a matchmaker, right? Is that I can get involved and be like, oh
Yes.
gosh, I mean, he already confirmed with me. He's really excited about the date. Let me just text him and remind him to confirm with you. And then her
Hmm.
response is, well, if you have to nudge him, then maybe he's just not worth meeting. It's like, oh my
All the
goodness,
time.
just give
I
him
hear
a
that
break.
all the time.
I know. I just feel like just give someone a break. Maybe they were busy last night. Maybe their phone died or whatever. It's like, don't find reasons to get upset, like don't find reasons to get offended. Like just give someone a break is what I want to tell the women and men sometimes. It's like it's not easy to set up a date. As a matchmaker, we charge what we charge because it is a lot of time. We have to vet the men and the women for our clients. I mean, And it's like, we're so
Mhm.
excited. We finally set up this date between two people. Like we do the research, we find this great place, the cuisine that you both like, great views. We make the reservation. We look on Yelp to make sure they have good reviews and all that stuff. And we plan this date out. And all you have to do is show up, have fun, and flirt, right? So it's like, it's okay to confirm a date with a guy. Just say, hey, happy Saturday. Can't wait to see you tonight. Just want to make sure we're still on. Something
Mhm.
casual like that. And is the guy going to be upset? Like, oh my gosh, she's so desperate. No, he's going to be like, thank you so much for confirming the date. I'm so excited to meet you. See you tonight. And that's all it took. But instead, like in her head, it just got in her head, like, well, he didn't confirm with me. I'm just going to do something else instead. It's like a defense
Mhm.
mechanism or something. But anyway, that was just one little example of how we can get in our own ways, right? Kind of like what you were saying. So, yeah. Any other
Yeah.
tips, Helen, while we're talking about dating out there? And what's one last advice you can give the listeners out there as you're helping setting up men and women?
May, you've got light coming in on your face. Does you see
Oh,
it on your end?
oh, yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
You look very Avatar.
yeah. Okay, go on. It's like the
It's
sun coming in, but go on.
Yeah, it's dancing. Okay. I mean, I would say that every married woman will reach the point where she feels that her husband is just completely incompetent and clueless. And it it doesn't mean he is. It's just that again, we're prone to that fantasy of that perfect man who provides everything that we could need before we can even express it. I tell women, if a man says all the right things and does all the right things, he's a con man. So hold on to your wallet. Most regular men will slip up. They'll make mistakes. They'll make us wonder and doubt, and make us angry, or I don't know if they're making us or we're choosing to get angry, but I think all those emotions and those situations are such a normal part of a relationship. The
Yeah,
sooner we accept
I agree.
that.
I agree. I mean, I feel like Hollywood just makes us believe in this fantasy guy. He's going to be great. I'm going to drop my train ticket. I'm going to pick it up. I'm going to look up and I'm going to see him and he's going to sweep me off my feet. And that's kind of the reason why I do tell um, single women to get advice from married women. And
Mhm.
for single friends, probably want you to be single too, right? Like they just want you to maybe be miserable with them. Misery loves company, but at the same time, it's yeah, just give guys a break when you're dating and get to know him. And he's not going to be perfect, but does he seem like a good provider? Does he have a great job? Is he kind to his mom? Is he kind to his siblings? Does he have a good head on his shoulder? Financially, do you guys see yourself being a dual income family, or does he want you to take care of kids? Like, there's so much more
Mhm.
than this fantasy of this perfect guy. I mean, if he's too good, he's probably too good to be true, right? Like,
Right.
he's Mr. Joe Cool, then yeah. I mean, I don't suggest people date the guys who says the perfect things and the guy who does everything perfect for you. It's like, aren't you suspicious? Like, I want a guy who flusters and make mistakes and is real and apologizes and all that stuff. So, but yeah. Yeah, so in interest of time, Helen, I appreciate you taking the time to chat with me.
Mhm.
I just love chatting with other matchmakers and to see what's, in their mind and pick their brains. And, it's not like we come up with these great dating tips for you, the listeners, to do, but hopefully we just make you think about some of the things that we come across. And next time you're being asked out by a guy, like just give him a chance. Or if you're a woman, like ask a guy out. He would love that. Like guys have it tough, man. They have to face rejection and to think of a place to take you and all that stuff. It's like, make it easy for them, give them a break. So, with that, do you have anything to add, Helen, before we go?
Thank you for having me on. I had a great time.
Okay, well, let's continue to make great matches out there. And Helen, thank you for being on the show today. And to find Helen, you could go to myzenmatch.com. She has a database, ladies and men, if you want to sign up with her. If there's a great guy or great woman for you to meet, she will be happy to contact you. And yeah, let's continue making matches and let's make great love out there. Thank you, Helen.
Looking
Have a
forward
great
to it.
day. Okay,
You too.
bye.
Bye.